Hello everybody, my name is Zen, and I'm going to be talking about the latest No Man's Sky update titled Frontiers. It is really cool. In fact, this game is it's a phoenix from the ashes. You know, the ashes of its launch. It has reborn itself, and it is such a good game. If you're into any kind of exploration game or building survival crafting games, you know, I'm talking like Minecraft or Ark or Don't Starve or, you know, anything in that sense of gameplay style, or even things just like exploratory games where you're going around, like Astroneer is another good example. Well, this game is all of that combined into just a perfect package now. Like, it's something that I honestly, as a person who was around for the launch of this game and played it and enjoyed what I did play, I don't think I would have ever said that this game would be in that point. But the team for Hello Games has absolutely crushed it, and No Man's Sky proves that it's okay to continue working on your game when it's not perfect, because given enough time, it may very well have huge leaps in how good the game can get. So with that little intro out of the way, let's talk about what has been added in the latest patch. Now, it's been a while since I've covered No Man's Sky on the channel, so if you've missed the other patches, I haven't played all of them, but I know that they added like a creepy like xenomorph ship kind of thing where it's like a haunted ship, and you can explore that stuff. They've added a bunch of performance updates and graphic updates, and they constantly are doing that in every patch. Indeed, they're also have added companions that you can get, like creature companions that you can get, or like mounts that you can ride, and it just keeps going and going and going, and the list, it feels like it's never ending. Every time they update this game, it just gets bigger and bigger, and the multiplayer part of it becomes even better and better, which is saying a lot, because when this game launched, there was zero multiplayer. So the biggest part of the Frontiers update is that they have added settlements, which is kind of what it sounds like. On planets now, you can discover settlements, which are just like, the only way that I could describe them in the sense that they actually kind of come across within the game is like a Western town, like one of those, like, you know, backwater towns in a Western, where it's tiny. And tiny, I mean, it's got like quite a few residents in it, but it's not like a city. It's a little town, and the people there are just kind of struggling to survive a lot of the time. And you come in and can become an overseer of the settlement, and that gives you a lot of control over it. I'll get into that in a moment, but you know, if you want to take another example here, you could look at things like Mos Eisley from Star Wars. That's a pretty good example. It's like, it feels kind of ungoverned when you first arrive. And in fact, the first one that I came across was being attacked by sentinels, which are the annoying robots that were at the start of the game when it first launched, and have now kind of evolved and become this really cool enemy type that you're not constantly in combat with like you were when the game first launched. So they were under attack by sentinels, and I rescued them, came in, destroyed them all, and the people were like, yay, thank you for saving us. And the settlement was, it had a thing in the middle that was like, hey, this is currently ungoverned. What happened to the overseer before? Don't know. Could be lost, could be dead. No idea what happened to him. It said that. It was like, would you like to apply to be the overseer? And I was like, yeah, I'll apply to be an overseer. And I go through this process of then having to build my overseer's office, which is cool. Basically, you go collect resources like you do in the rest of the game, and you contribute it to a building that's being built for you. And inside that office, when you get it built, is a computer that allows you to manage your settlement. So management sounds kind of off-putting to people who don't like doing management stuff. And I will say that this settlement thing is completely optional. You don't have to do it in the game. It's just kind of a fun activity that has now been added. But by managing it, I mean, you can name the town whatever you like, just like you can, discover and name anything else in the game. You can choose what to build for certain things. So basically, your settlement will be generating resources, but it also spends some of those resources. And when I came across my first settlement, it was generating debt. It was not making enough money, and it had a bunch of negative effects on it. People weren't happy, and the population was fairly low. So what I did is I came in and I, like any overseer would do in the situation, decided let's get out of debt here. Let's try to figure out how to start making money. And one of the first options I had was to build a tower that was going to increase commerce in the little settlement. But I could choose between two things. It was either like more happiness, like it was like a mansion for the people to like go hang out in, or it was this commerce thing. I was like, well, it makes more sense because this is generating so much debt to go and, do the commerce. And so I did that. And then you kind of, get to go do your own thing, go play the game, and the settlement notifies you when new things are there. It'll be like, hey, there's an argument between two of the people in the settlement. Do you want to go handle this? And for me, it was like, someone lost a book and one of the two settlers was claiming it was theirs, but the other one was also saying, hey, it's mine. But you don't really have an idea of whose it is. So I just gave it to one of them, and the effect was that the whole town became suspicious because I apparently gave it to the wrong person. And it was just like, it was really cool that I was making these choices on my settlement. And the way that I'll put this is that the information here feels intentionally cloudy. And the way, or what I mean by this is that when you look at the information presented in front of you, you can come up with some kind of plan to change your settlement in the way that you want it to be. Maybe you want it generating more money, because if it is generating an excess of money, you get a part of that because you're the overseer. Or maybe you just want the people really happy, or you want it to be really pretty and stuff like that. You can come up with a plan like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is the path that I'm going to take. But the information that's given to you has just a little bit of fogginess to it. It's not perfect information. You're not quite sure what any one thing does, unless, this is months down the line when you're watching this video and you go and look it up on a wiki or a guide or something like that. And it means that you're making decisions based on what you think is cool and not what you think is the statistically best option. And I like that. That's something that board games do very, very well. They allow you to have non-perfect information transfer, which means that, you're not always making the absolute perfect decision at any given point. And it makes the game more interesting in that regard. And every settlement within the game is just like the rest of the game, procedurally generated. You're going to come across all sorts of different looking shapes and sizes of buildings and interiors, and the residents that live there are going to be different each time. And when you come across them, like the residents will have different opinions, and the game will express what those opinions are to you as you're walking around, looking at people. And I think it's really cool because you get an idea of, am I liked? Am I not liked? And it does a good job of presenting you as an overseer in the game. You feel like you're taking that position without necessarily feeling like you have a bunch of responsibility all of a sudden that you're thrust into, and that you can't go do anything else in the game. It encourages you to do some things, kind of do some decisions, make some decisions, build some buildings, and then go away. Because a lot of the buildings that you build within the settlement, with the choices that you're making, are buildings that take time to build. Like the tower that I built, that I was mentioning, took 3 hours for it to build. But the best part is, you can log out of the game, or you can go do other things within the game and then come back. And I like that a lot. In fact, when I was doing the settlement stuff, it happens to be on a Friday, which in our house is family movie night. And I had gotten a lot of the settlement stuff up and running, and I had a 3 hour wait for one of my buildings to finish, and it happened right when we were going to go watch a movie. So of course I come back and it's done, and I can, you know, jump in and start playing again. And I like that. I like that I feel like my settlement is existing while I'm offline. And that's something that you get a lot in mobile games, but is something that I think works really well for this system, because it's not meant to be you're going to put all of your time and effort into this settlement. It's more like you're kind of doing this on the side as an explorer, but you know, they're still your responsibility. And the game does notify you while you're off doing other things if there's new things for you to do. And I like that a lot. But eventually, as you put time and effort into your settlement, it will begin to change. It will begin to grow new buildings, and more people will start showing up, and it will change based on the decisions that you had made up until that point. You know, if you're doing more commerce, you know, you're going to see more traders around and stuff, and the buildings that you're building are going to be reflecting that. And the people who are visiting, because you do have alien ships landing and visiting your settlement, and you can go and greet them and talk to them and see what they want or what would make it better. And I like that a lot, because it feels like you're being rewarded for the decisions that you're making in your settlement. And especially watching it grow makes it feel really, really cool. And just like the rest of No Man's Sky, the way that it is procedurally generated, when you come across a settlement for the first time, you're really excited. You're like, this is cool. I'm going to explore this. I'm going to do this system. But as you continue playing, you may come across a settlement that you think is your favorite settlement, which is awesome. That's a really cool feeling to be like, ooh, I really like this one. I like its planet that it's on. I like the people that it is. You know, I like the buildings that are here and everything like that. And then you could just like commit all your time into that one instead, or, you know, tackle multiple settlements if you really are feeling like necessary to do that. But it's just a really perfect little addition to a game that has so much in it already that it's a nice little distraction from the rest of what you're doing. And something that just adds to the game even more is that they've gone through the building tools and all of the building parts and just completely redid it, and it's so much better. Like the building in No Man's Sky, when they first added it, was pretty good, and then it's gotten better over time, but now they've redone the tools for actually placing items. And in a way, it reminds me of WildStar, if any of you remember that game. That is now dead, unfortunately. Rest in peace, WildStar. But its player housing system was one of the best that has ever been designed. Basically, you know, game designers, or rather level designers and artists, are already populating the world with a bunch of doodads to make the world feel lived in. And in WildStar, you can unlock a lot of those for your player housing. And when you got back to your player house, you could place these objects down, and it would give you full control over where you were putting them. XYZ axis. You can make it like clip through walls and whatnot to get precise display of things the way that you wanted it to look, which is a tool that level designers often use, even though you don't quite notice it. And No Man's Sky is no different anymore. It allows that exact same kind of control. The scaling option on objects is really smooth. The way that you're placing it down now through its new interface is solid. And the way that you're observing the parts that you can build is significantly improved. Before, it was like this really clunky menu to select what part you want to put down at any point. And now it is just a nice grid menu that you could scroll through and figure out what you're placing down. And you can quickly, at a glance, see a bunch of different parts. And that's a huge improvement on what it was before. And I didn't know that I needed this improvement until I've seen it. But as someone who really does enjoy building in these kind of games, I'm excited to jump in to the building menus and whatnot and jump in and kind of see what I can create out of the parts that have been given to me. And this is on top of a huge host of graphical updates that have come to the game over the last several updates. And this one, not excluding any of those updates at all. It creates way more particle effects and the game looks a lot better. And I'm happy to say that on my current setup, I'm using a GeForce RTX 2070 Super, and I'm running at 60 frames per second on ultra, and it's buttery smooth. And the reason for that is because they recently had added DLSS. Now, DLSS stands for dynamic or deep learning super sampling, and in layman's terms, it takes the game at a lower resolution and puts it up into a higher resolution, making the game run a lot smoother because you're observing the game as if it would normally be there, but it's running the game at look, it's very complicated, but the result is it runs so smoothly. And this is technology that we've seen in games like Cyberpunk, and more recently, most new releases are starting to come out with DLSS enabled in it. And it's awesome because you just unlock a whole different type of performance upgrade within the game. Unfortunately, this is not available on things like next-gen consoles or even old consoles, obviously. And you do have to have specific hardware in order to get it to work to begin with. But if you're set up for that, you're going to enjoy the benefit. But regardless of where you're playing the game, they've improved cloud saves, which is a huge upgrade because it's nice to be able to play the game where you want to be able to play it. And, this is one of those games that you may want to be playing at your PC or, on the TV or something like that, depending on what mood you're in or where you're able to play. And they allow you to take your game saves wherever you really would want them to be. And I like that a lot. In fact, the multiplayer part of this game has improved so significantly that it kind of blew me away. I'm not going to spoil what happens in the game in case you've never played No Man's Sky, but there is a point at which you kind of come across a multiplayer space station, and on it you can get a bunch of different missions. And what they've added is a mission style thing where it's they have weekly missions or weekend missions even, where you're contributing to progress on that, and then at the end of the week you get a bunch of resources or rewards from that. The coolest thing about this, which I didn't know about, but they're apparently in season 3 of it, is they have like this seasonal content in No Man's Sky. You can make a new character and play through the seasonal thing. In this case, it's this crazy ship that you have to try to get running, and it's a challenge. But when you get done with the seasonal content, you carry a lot of those rewards over into the game. And just like in Diablo 3, which is probably the best example of this, when the seasonal content is over, you can make that character just a normal character that you're playing. And I love that. I love the idea that they're giving you reasons to come back and play the game and, go and explore and see what there is to offer in this game that is essentially endless. So I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, that Frontiers is a phenomenal patch. And No Man's Sky has become a game that I think everybody should be playing, even just a little bit, if you're interested in these kind of games, like these exploring, crafting, survival games. They have different modes. Obviously, they have a survival mode, so if you want a more hardcore experience, you can go to that. They have a hardcore mode where if you die, your character is deleted. And I really like how expanded this game has become and how many options it has for any kind of player. You could play casually, you could just go exploring, you could play completely single player, you could jump in with your friends and play with them, and it's just from a game design point of view, it is a bit of a masterclass in giving players the options that they deserve to have in games. And you can play as a gamer whatever the way you want. And I think that that is a huge achievement and needs to be applauded, because when this game first launched, it was a disaster, and now it's phenomenal. It is so good. If you've ever been really excited for a game to launch and then it launches to mixed reviews or bad reviews, and the developer sits down and tries to put time and effort into making the game the way that they wanted it to be made, give them time to do it, because No Man's Sky has proven that it's okay to put more time into a game that, just needs more time in order to get it to be where it needs to be phenomenal. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Frontiers. It's really fun. I do suggest playing it, especially if you have never played No Man's Sky. It's a perfect time to jump in. And if you have played it before, it's a perfect time to jump back in. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching, and we shall see you next time.